talk to you for a second because I know how confusing it gets when a man starts acting distant. One day he's calling you beautiful, texting you good morning, saying you're the best thing that's ever happened to him. And the next, silence, no calls, no text, no explanation, just vanished like you imagined everything. When a man goes silent, it's easy to fall into the trap of overthinking, blaming yourself and wondering what you did wrong. But the truth is, his silence is not just confusion, and it's not always about him needing space to figure things out. Most of the time, silence is a decision, a clear, conscious choice. He's choosing not to call, choosing not to respond, choosing not to engage. That's not a miscommunication. That's a message. Women often make the mistake of thinking that a man ignores them. It must mean he's confused or that he's so overwhelmed by his emotions that he doesn't know what to say. But more often than not, the silence is intentional. It's a way to avoid responsibility, to dodge a difficult conversation, or to keep control without confrontation. A man who wants to talk to you will. A man who wants you to feel secure and valued won't leave you wondering. So when he stops communicating, when the calls slow down, when the text replies get colder or disappear altogether, he's saying something without saying anything at all. Men know how to communicate when they want something. If he's silent, it's because what he wants is no longer aligned with being open and consistent with you. It may be that he's trying to end things without being the bad guy. It may be that he's entertaining other options and doesn't have the courage to come clean. Or it may be that he's unsure of how to manage your expectations, so he avoids you altogether. But none of those reasons are your fault. His decision to go silent says more about where he is emotionally than about your value or your worth. Some women try to break the silence by texting more, calling more, reaching out, trying to fix something they didn't break. But what that does is reward the behavior. It tells him he can withdraw and still have access to you. It gives him all the power without the accountability. That's silence. It's a test, not for him, but for you. It's the moment where you get to decide whether you're going to accept that kind of treatment or demand better. You might start questioning everything. You might ask your friends for advice, scroll through old messages, replay conversations in your head, trying to pinpoint where all changed. But the fact that you're doing all that and he's doing none of it, that should tell you everything. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in communication because it forces the other person to fill in the blanks. But don't confuse silence with emotional struggle. Don't confuse a lack of response with depth. Some men are just choosing not to speak because they don't respect you enough to be honest or brave enough to be direct. When a man pulls back and starts ignoring you, it's often not because he stopped caring, but because he's scared, unsure, or hiding something he doesn't want to confront. Men aren't always taught how to process emotions or communicate vulnerability, so when they're faced with something that makes them feel out of control, like deep feelings, commitment, or guilt, many of them shut down instead of speaking up. Silence becomes their escape route. And that pullback, it's not random. It's calculated, even if it's unconscious. It's the way he copes with discomfort, fear, or inner conflict. Sometimes he's scared of how much he likes you. The intensity of his feelings might make him feel weak, like he's losing power. So instead of leaning in, he backs off. Other times, he's unsure about what he really wants. Maybe he likes the attention, the closeness, the physical side of things, but he's not ready for the responsibility that comes with a real connection. Instead of admitting that, he chooses distance. Or maybe he's hiding something, another relationship, emotional baggage, unresolved issues. And ignoring you keeps him from having the truth or face the consequences. Men often believe that withdrawing will make things easier. No confrontation, no explaining, no emotions. But while he's sitting with his fear or confusion, you're sitting with silence. You're the one left trying to read between the lines, wondering what changed, what went wrong, what you could have done differently. But the truth is, it's not always about something you did. It's about something he doesn't know how to deal with. And instead of being man enough to say it, he avoids it. Pulling back is a defense mechanism. It protects his ego, shields him from emotional risk, and gives him time to regain a sense of control. But it also reveals something important: how he handles pressure, how he deals with discomfort, and how willing he is to show up even when things get complicated. If silence is his go-to move when emotions get deep, that says a lot about where he is emotionally. That pullback is not just a pause. It's a pattern. A man who consistently pulls away when things get real is not confused. He's showing you how he operates under pressure. This behavior often makes women feel like they have to prove themselves. They think, maybe if I give him space, he'll come back. Or maybe if I show him how patient I am, he'll see I'm worth it. But the problem isn't your patience. It's his inability to face you with honesty. If fear, confusion, or secrets are driving his silence, then his pullback is not temporary. It's telling. And the longer you ignore it, the more you teach him that disappearing acts come without consequences. Ignoring someone is rarely accidental. When a man chooses to stop responding, when he avoids your calls, delays his replies, or just falls off the map completely, that's not because he's lost his phone or overwhelmed by work for days on end. That's because he's making a choice to withdraw. Ignoring you is easier for him than facing the truth, and in many cases, easier than being honest with himself. It takes emotional maturity to sit down and have a real conversation about feelings, expectations, or intentions. But for some men, it's more convenient to go quiet and hope you eventually get the message without him having to say a word. This kind of behavior is a form of emotional avoidance. When a man doesn't want to deal with the discomfort of a conversation, or when he doesn't want to confront how his actions might be hurting you, he disappears into silence. It spares him from the guilt, the responsibility, and the vulnerability. But make no mistake, that silence is not confusion. It's strategy. It's his way of maintaining control while dodging accountability. Saying, I'm not feeling this anymore, or I'm not ready, requires courage. But disappearing, that's the easy way out. It doesn't make him strong. It shows his weakness in the face of emotional responsibility. Sometimes men ignore you because they're trying to buy time. Maybe he's weighing his options. Maybe he's testing how long you'll wait or how far you'll go before you walk away. He might be ready to let you go completely, but he doesn't want to commit either, so he leaves you hanging in limbo. It's a selfish move because it keeps you emotionally invested without giving you the clarity or respect you deserve. In his mind, silence gives him space while still keeping you within reach. And as long as you keep waiting, hoping, or reaching out, it works in his favor. There are also times when ignoring you is meant to punish you. It's a form of manipulation. If there's been an argument or if he feels challenged, he might withdraw to make you feel unsure, anxious, or desperate for reconciliation. That's not love. That's control. A man who truly respects you will never use silence as a weapon. He won't ignore you to teach you a lesson. He'll communicate. He'll express himself, even when it's uncomfortable, because he values the relationship enough to work through the tension instead of running from it. Ignoring you is a decision rooted in self-preservation, whether it's to avoid conflict, dodge responsibility, manipulate the dynamic, or test your tolerance. It's always about choosing what's easier for him, not what's healthier for you. Silence may feel passive, but it's a loud message. And it's important to listen not just to what he says, but to what he refuses to say. Because in that refusal, there's truth about who he is, where he stands, and how seriously he takes your connection. When a man starts ignoring you, the silence isn't just about avoiding you. It's often a reflection of where you stand in his life. His silence reveals his true priorities. And that's something you have to pay close attention to. People make time for what matters to them. If he cared about keeping you close, if he valued your presence, your voice, your heart, then you would not have to question where you stand. He would show up, even in small ways. A message, a quick check-in, or a phone call to say he's busy but thinking about you. Those things matter. But when those things go missing and the silence stretches longer and longer, it speaks louder than any excuse he could ever give. Men, what they're doing when they ignore you, they know the absence of communication causes you to wonder, to worry, to try harder. Some men use that to their advantage. They stay distant so they don't have to give too much while still keeping you emotionally available for them. But make no mistake, if a man can go hours, days, or even weeks without reaching out, then it's not that he's too busy. It's that you're not a priority right now. And that might sting, but it's the kind of truth that helps you stop romanticizing mixed signals. Silence doesn't happen in a vacuum. If he's ignoring you, he's probably giving his time and energy somewhere else. Whether that's his job, his friends, his personal goals, or even another woman, the point is, Something is taking up the space that used to belong to you. And instead of being honest about that shift, he chooses silence because it's less confrontational. But while he's avoiding the conversation, you're sitting with the confusion. And in that confusion, your heart keeps investing, waiting, hoping, holding on to the version of him that's no longer present. Some men think that as long as they haven't said, it's over, they're not responsible for the damage their silence causes. But the absence of attention is just as loud as words. When someone consistently fails to prioritize you, that silence isn't neutral, it's neglect. It's the kind of behavior that slowly chips away at your self-worth because you begin to wonder why you're not enough to deserve clarity, respect, or even basic communication. And in that wondering, you begin to shrink self just to keep whatever scraps he's willing to give. The most dangerous part is when you start making excuses for him. You tell yourself he's just busy, he's stressed, he's got a lot going on. But if he wanted to talk to you, he would. If he wanted to make time, he would. A man who truly sees you as important will never make you feel invisible. He won't let silence grow where connection should be. And once you start paying attention to how he behaves when it's inconvenient to love you, you'll start seeing the truth he's too afraid to say out loud. A woman's worth is not tied to how much attention a man gives her. That's a truth too many women forget when they're caught up in the cycle of someone's silence. When a man starts ignoring you, it's natural to feel hurt, confused, and even responsible. You start asking yourself what changed, what you did wrong, or why you suddenly seem invisible. But his lack of communication is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his inability to recognize and honor it. Just because someone stopped seeing your worth doesn't mean it disappeared. In relationships, it's easy to start measuring your importance through the lens of someone else's behavior. If he texts, you feel wanted. If he calls, you feel loved. If he shows up, you feel secure. But when those things stop, you begin to doubt yourself. You begin to think you have to prove something, be more, do more, wait longer, tolerate more. That kind of thinking is dangerous because it puts your self-esteem in someone else's hands. And when that someone is inconsistent, unavailable, or emotionally immature, you get dragged through a cycle of highs and lows that can leave you feeling like you're never enough. But your value doesn't shrink because someone else fails to appreciate it. You don't become less beautiful, less intelligent, or less worthy because a man doesn't see it. His blindness to your light doesn't dim it. A queen is still a queen whether or not the king acknowledges her. So when you're being ignored, instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you have to remind yourself who you are. You have to look in the mirror and remember everything you bring to the table. Your heart, your loyalty, your strength, your energy. When a man withdraws, the biggest mistake you can make is chasing after the closure you think you need to feel worthy again. The silence isn't your fault. You don't have to chase clarity from someone who can't even offer consistency. If his presence is inconsistent, don't let it make your self-worth inconsistent too. If he can live without talking to you, then it's not your job to keep reminding him of your existence. The more you chase someone who doesn't see you, the more you teach yourself that you're only valuable when you're being validated. You were valuable before he came into your life. You're still valuable even as he fades out of it. Love should never make you question your worth. Communication should never be something you beg for. You are allowed to expect effort. You are allowed to expect presence. And you are allowed to away from anything that makes you feel like you have to earn love that should be freely given. The moment you stop looking at yourself through the lens of his silence and start seeing yourself through your own truth, you reclaim your power. If a man can go days without speaking to you, without checking in, without caring enough to ask how you're doing, then that tells you everything you need to know. A communication isn't complicated. It doesn't take hours. It doesn't take perfect timing, and it certainly doesn't require a perfect situation. It just takes intention. When someone truly cares about you, they want to stay connected. Even if they're busy, even if they're overwhelmed, they'll make the smallest effort to let you know you're still on their mind. Silence doesn't come from choice. It comes from choice. There's a difference between needing space and being emotionally unavailable. Some men use the excuse of being busy or needing time as a cover for disengaging. But during that time, they're still on their phones. They're still talking to other people. They're still laughing with their friends. They're just not prioritizing you. And you have to stop pretending that you're okay with being an afterthought. If he can carry on with his life without any urge to hear your voice or know your heart, then it's time to stop pretending that this silence is temporary or harmless. Often when a man creates distance, women begin to overcompensate. You start initiating more, trying harder, rationalizing his lack of effort. You give him space, but in that space you suffer. You silence your needs. You keep your phone close, waiting for something that may never come. And in doing that, you begin to confuse his absence with your unworthiness. But a man's lack of communication is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his readiness or lack of it. Readiness to love, to invest, to show up. Letting a man go who doesn't value your presence is not loss. It's freedom. Freedom from waiting, guessing, wondering if today will be the day he remembers you. Because a man who wants you in his life will never make you feel like you're chasing him just to matter. If he's not calling, not texting, not caring, he's making a choice to let you drift further away. And if you continue holding on, you're choosing to ignore what that really means. You're giving your heart to someone who doesn't even show up to claim it. It's not about revenge. It's not about giving him the silent treatment back. It's about realizing that someone who okay with not hearing from you is someone who is not emotionally connected enough to deserve your vulnerability. Relationships thrive on communication. And if he refuses to communicate, he refuses to grow. You're not asking for too much when you expect someone to stay present. You're not being needy when you want consistency. If he can live without speaking to you, let him. If he can ignore your presence like it's optional, stop offering it like it's permanent. When a man creates distance, when he ignores your messages or goes silent without explanation, it can feel like a puzzle you're supposed to solve. You replay conversations, analyze every word, and try to figure out where it all went wrong. But instead of putting the energy into fixing something that's one-sided, the real strength is in using his distance as a moment of reflection, not desperation. Silence from someone else gives you space to hear your own voice again, to remember what you need, what you want, and how you want to be loved. Too often, women fall into the trap of thinking they need to do something to make them come back. They start wondering if they said too much, if they were too available, if they should have played harder to get. That mindset shifts a focus away from what he's doing to what you might have done wrong. But distance isn't always caused by your actions. In many cases, it's a result of his uncertainty, his fears, his inability to handle emotional depth. And instead of seeing that clearly, you begin chasing answers and validation, thinking that if you just hold on a little longer, he'll return and explain everything. But chasing someone who's pulling away only deepens the imbalance. The more you try to close the gap, the more power he holds. And the more you ignore your own needs just to keep the connection alive, the more you lose yourself in the process. That's why his distance should be your turning point. Not a time to break down, but a time to build yourself back up. Not a cue to chase him, but a call to come back to yourself. When someone ignores you, it's not the time to shrink. It's the time to stand tall, to ask yourself what kind of love you're willing to accept, to recognize that someone's absence can reveal more truth than their presence ever did. Use that silence to realign with your standards. Use that quiet to remind yourself that you don't have to beg for attention or compromise your dignity just to keep someone interested. You deserve to be pursued, to be heard, to be respected consistently, not just when it's convenient. Reflection doesn't mean waiting. It means asking better questions. Not, why did he pull away? But why am I tolerating this? Not, when will he come back? But what do I really want in a partner? These are the questions that bring you clarity, the kind that leads to peace instead of pain. And once you begin to reflect instead of react, you'll find the power in stillness. You'll see that someone's distance doesn't have to leave you empty. It can be the very thing that fills you with strength, awareness, and a deeper understanding of your own worth.